AI is going to take away jobs.
Artificial intelligence is coming for your job.
That's on everybody's mind. I would provide a counter argument.
35 years in NTPC, TCS, LTI, scaled Mindtree digital business to over 400 million and scaled the company to 7,000 plus employees.
But now we are in a different era altogether, agentic AI. So what this whole journey has taught me is that learning never stops. I can code myself, but I didn't want to code it. So I used all the latest AI tools available. My next level attrition in all these 35 years has been zero.
But you moved from US to India. Usually people don't come back.
He came rushing to the podium and said, "You know what you have done?" I was taken aback for a moment. Okay, that I have done something wrong.
For a young graduate who just passed or in a career of 2 to 3 years, for you, what do you want to suggest to those kind of people who are going into the career?
They should.
35 years in NTPC, TCS, LTI Mindtree, which is now LTM, transformed his career from an engineer to SVP, scaled Mindtree digital business to over 400 million and scaled the company to 7,000 plus employees. Today we have Sreedhar, a visionary person along with the angel investor, LP in multiple VC firm. Thank you so much, Sreedhar, for being us.
Thank you so much for having me. Fantastic being here. Even though it was a long commute for me, I thought it's worthwhile coming here.
Yeah, I know you came from different city.
Out of Bangalore.
Great. So first thing I want to know from you, like been 35 plus years for you. You started your career in 1990. The things which we see technology now has evolved into multiple things, be it CDP, which we used to call before, and now we have engineers, AI engineers, data engineers. How is your journey? Like, where do you started from? Where you came from? Can you just give me a gist about it?
Absolutely, Rishav. It's been, I would say, a fantastic journey so far, and journey is not over yet. Even though I say that I'm transitioning out of my corporate role, the journey has just begun, is what I would say.
You still look very young.
Thank you for that. So, there was I would say I've seen through multiple technology shifts. So when I started my career, IT was known as EDP, Electronic Data Processing. The IT word was not yet coined at that time. And I used to work at National Thermal Power Corporation. I was really awed by the enormity of what beholds for engineers in NTPC. But that's when I learned my whole tech career as such. I would have written some million lines of code, but most of them was in some old technologies like C, C++, using dumb terminals as we used to call them, not even Windows-based graphic UI. But fast forward to the early 2000s, that's when the internet era started. So we all shifted gears and learned entirely newer technologies from what we used to do earlier on Unix and other platforms on mainframes. We shifted gears to work on the latest platforms then, which was all this graphical user interface and Java and other object-oriented programming, etc. That was a big technology shift when internet came in. But then fast forward further in the earlier 2010s when mobile became a big paradigm shift. A lot of applications were being built on mobile. iOS and Android were the two major platforms. And then technology again shifted. And then customer experience became the core of everything that you would do. So everything was rewarding on customer experience, and mobile provided impetus to drive that. So designing world-class mobile applications, iPad was a big, paradigm shift again there. And then to drive that experience, data became a foundation. So everything revolved around how do you leverage enterprise data, which was in most big enterprises, data was heavily siloed. It was not properly organized because any big banks, they used to grow by acquiring products for their channels. Data was still siloed. So how do you integrate the data and create a robust platform which can then be used to deliver the services that you want? But now we are in a different era altogether, agentic AI, right? So what this whole journey has taught me is that learning never stops.
Correct.
You got to be a continuous learner. So every time something comes in new, you got to at least learn. And there are so many technologies which we learned and then we forget. For example, a few years back, I used to dabble a lot with blockchain technologies, dabble a lot with metaverse. I'm sure it will come back again some point in time, but at this moment, it might have taken a backseat.
Correct.
right? So that's what, so this journey has been fantastic so far, I would say, yeah.
It's all about agentic these days. One more thing which comes to my mind always, because I completed my engineering in 2019. You completed in 1990s, 1990.
Yeah.
During that time, actually, what I see today is like it was C++, C Sharp, Java, Python, all those things. Now people talk about agents, data, all those things. This word doesn't come anymore.
Yeah.
Does the evolvement of these words actually happen from EDP, which you talk about? What do you feel by seeing the technology moving so fast these days? Like in 35 years, it is completely changed for you. What do you think that this changes bring more to the society or to the ecosystem, to the Indian growth or anyone's growth in the entire globally we talk about?
I would say, we're at the cusp of a revolution. Okay, something which is fundamentally going to change people's lives. What was not affordable earlier when computing just started in the 90s, people were not able to afford a PC on their own. But now the cost of computing power has come down tremendously down, right? So which means that you can on your phone you've got tremendous computing power. You have AI capabilities on your phone, right? So with that, I would say the potential to transform people's lives to do things which they would not have imagined to do earlier now exists. So that's how I would say in terms of how it can transform societies. There are tons of use cases where we can apply AI. Tons of use cases, both from a consumer perspective, from enterprise perspective, from a societal perspective. I've seen several, NGOs who are into the social aspects of it, right? They are doing fantastic things leveraging AI to deliver healthcare services in rural areas, for example, to healthcare, to kind of deliver basic services that are hitherto not being provided to vast populations within the country. We can reach them. This is how I see this evolving, and the potential is very high. But then one might argue that AI is going to take away jobs. That's on everybody's mind. I would provide a counter argument. Again, go like based on what I have seen over the last 30 years, right? Every time a new technology comes in, we have a sense of threat. This is going to take away my job, right? Mainframe got replaced with cloud computing. Cloud computing now is like comes with AI now. So now people fear that AI is going to take away the jobs. But I think every new technology, it actually comes with a new set of opportunities. Again, goes back to the basic thing is where you have to keep learning. As long as you're able to adapt yourself, you will be able to survive any kind of technology onslaught, and gives you more opportunities is what I feel.
In this whole entire journey, like you worked with Indian companies, obviously Indian CXOs and overseas CXOs, or American CXOs also most of the time. Like what was the difference of working with Indian CXOs and American CXOs over the time when it, like obviously decision making things, how they make the processes, how they move things fast. Like what do you as an individual observed, and how did it impact it overall in this entire growth?
Very, very different experiences I have had, and all were good experiences. I have perhaps had more experience working with European and US CIOs particularly than with Indian companies, though even though I had some experiences with India as well. But then the kind of focus that they would have is what really intrigued me. So I used to work for a major bank in Switzerland. That's when I learned the whole concept of agile programming. It was in 2002.
Okay, now agile word, I think
agile word is so common now, right? Yeah. So 2002 is when we started agile, and there was one aspect called extreme programming.
Okay.
Extreme programming is when there's a concept of pair programming, where every developer will have one more person who will look over his or her shoulder to see how things are, and gives you tremendous focus. 8 hours of work, no breaks in between, maybe very limited breaks, and then you just focus and you don't make any errors, etc. But what I learned there was huge amount of discipline. A discipline in terms of controlling the scope creep. You don't allow the scope to creep. Any new requirements come in, you kind of properly document it, you create a backlog, put it in the next sprint, and you determine what needs to go live. So if you have decided that you want to go live with an MVP on a particular date, you make the date. So that was what I learned there. You don't slip. But I'm talking about 2002, so things might have changed now. But the project management discipline, particularly for IT projects, was just
And that is very important.
yes, very very important. And managing scope is where I have seen
The people lag a lot.
people lag a lot. Yeah, and I don't want to say it's different in India or different in
It's everywhere actually.
everywhere is the issue. But then as long as you have that discipline, you should be able to control that.
Interesting. But you love building, obviously. Over the years, you have built multiple things in multiple organizations. Like I would not say multiple, only 4 organizations. That is very, very interesting thing. Any interesting thing which happened in any course? Obviously, a lot of things might happen. Anything which you want to say that was very interesting project or interesting thing which you have done in your entire journey, which is very good learning for you also, and which also made a lot of impact in other organizations or within your organization, all these things.
I need to give you 2 examples, Rishav. 2 examples. Okay, so one is in my NTPC days. So we did not have all the latest systems then. We had Unix-based systems. We had 2 disparate systems, and I was a very young engineer there. I had just joined the company at that time. They had one system which used a RDBMS called Unify. That's where their materials management system used to work. And they had a brand new system then, which was running on in the Solaris, called Ingress RDBMS. Not sure if you have heard of that term. Very famous RDBMS at that time, along with Oracle and Sybase and those kind of things. So that ran the online maintenance management system, and it's a huge power plant.
And this was in 1990s.
This was in 1995.
Okay, I was about to born.
95, and these systems were not talking to each other. So if you are a maintenance engineer and you want to create a ticket for a maintenance job, and say you needed a few electrodes for some welding, right? Welding electrodes you needed. You had no idea whether those welding electrodes existed. Do you have to place an order? Do you have to purchase that? How much is the inventory stock? You had no idea. So you had to call the materials management department to check if these particular parts. I'm just giving one example. There could be hundreds of parts required for a maintenance job. So this was a huge problem, not only for the maintenance engineers, but also for IT or EDP then, as to how do we help these guys. And so totally different disparate systems. So one way we used to do was take a printout and give a printout each time somebody has a request, give them a printout. As to saying, hey, this is what the quantity available in stock. Okay. We didn't have emails also then for communication, right? So what I did was to connect these 2 systems, and that required very internal kernel level programming. If you understand C, C++, Unix, I developed socket level programming which could communicate and integrate these 2 databases. So that became a big hit at that time. So where an engineer can look up, use his Ingress based maintenance management system, all those green screens, if you remember those.
That modernized screens were also not.
Not there. It was all VT220 terminals.
Okay, it was terminals.
Dumb terminals, what people used to use. So there you key in the material code, it will immediately pop up as to how much quantity is available. That's all, very simple. But the simple implementation made a dramatic life-changing impact on that maintenance engineers. He would know what exactly is to do. Can he schedule their job or not? Can the job get executed? So all those things, the intelligence was made available instantly. That was one project. The second, fast forward to my TCS days. I used to work for a big bank at that time in Florida. They wanted to reimagine their entire contact center, grounds up for their cards business. Okay. So they had Florida, yeah. They had millions of cards customers and they had millions of accounts.
During early 2000s also.
This is in the era 2006 onwards. Okay. So people used to call the number behind the card, and there used to be like thousands of call center agents who used to use that. But there was no scope for upselling, cross-selling, nothing of that sort was there. So this was a greenfield project where we had to reimagine existing applications. So we figured out that there were 127 use cases, right from the time when somebody calls, you answer the call, authenticate the customer, then all the way to closing the account. So all those things in between, like cards management, changing your credit line, all those things, address change, phone change, the complete life cycle was managed in this application. and this is still being used. It's almost 15 years now. It's still being used in line production. I think they're talking about enhancing it, but still in production actually is what I was told by my friends. But that was a life-changing experience for me. So, it taught me a lot of things about domain and how crucial domain was to flourish in the IT industry. So that was a big eye-opener for me. So many people, many engineers, they're hardcore technologists, but they ignore the domain aspect, the business aspect of it. So that taught me a lot. There was one incident where Apple launched Apple Wallet, Apple Pay, Apple Pay.
It was in early
2010s, Apple Pay. And then we had to, there's something called device identification number, which has to be prefixed in the message that goes to authorization of the card. But we had to make a change within 5 days. But since we understood the whole process, since we understood the domain aspect of it as to where exactly this should go in, we could do it in 5 days, 5 or 7 days maybe, to immediately test it. We knew what would be the impact, side effects, etc., and we could just go live. So these are the things that, and that project which I did, I was very fortunate to receive the Best Digital Project Award from Mr. Tata, then and Mr. Chandra at that time. So which was very, I would say, life-changing moment for me. So these two projects I will always cherish. But there are several other projects, Rishav, which after joining Mindtree I did, but I can talk forever on that.
Yeah, I will obviously ask 2 or 3 projects from there also. But so many words you told, like any person who is 20-25 years young professional today, they might have not heard these terminologies now. Yeah. There's so many things which has been evolved over the time, and people are still, even if we are in the new era of technology, I understand that you should know about all these technologies. But once you quit TCS and you joined LTI, Mindtree. Yeah. Yes, sorry, Mindtree. Yeah. Obviously, different journey altogether. And I would say one thing which you can tell any good interesting story again, because you told about 1990s, 2001, 2000s, 2010, late 2010 actually.
No, fantastic experience in Mindtree. Okay, so we talk about AI now, right? But we began doing a lot of AI work in the 2017, 2018, that time.
And mostly it was data analytics, data lead, right?
Hardcore AI. So data was the foundation.
Okay.
So when you look at AI today, I look at AI across 3 vectors. The first vector is all those activities which were your traditional machine learning, deep learning, and those kind of activities, which existed for quite some time. The second vector is all your generative AI, where you are in the business of generating content, text, music, videos, etc. Right? So that's the second vector. The third vector, as we know, is today the agentic AI, right? Now, the first vector, that was existing for quite some time, so machine learning, deep learning and all. And we did a lot of projects in that space, even before generative AI came in at Mindtree. So one project was for a very big worldwide CPG company. They had big operations in Asia, India as well. So you have these Kirana stores in India. So, and then there are salespeople who are responsible for distribution of the products. So the kind of products that they sell to a Kirana store is called the assortment mix, right? You can have detergent, soaps, shampoos, and all those things. And each of these come at different sizes and shapes. That's called a SKU, okay? So the assortment mix would determine what are the types of SKUs that one salesperson had to sell to a particular Kirana store. It could be a Kirana store or it could be a big box retailer as well. So how do you go and sell that, right? Now, this traditionally used to happen based on tribal knowledge that the salesperson has and the relationship that he has with the Kirana store, okay? He will say, hey, like, give me 4 soaps or 4 boxes of soaps. There's white soap, pink soap, and all those things, right? Very, I would say, suboptimal ways of working. So, but then we also do not have the point of sale data because it was not digital then. We don't have what is being purchased in a particular zip code. All those data was not there. But then there were third-party providers who used to give us this data, okay? We had millions of rows of transaction data based on their intelligence, their survey, etc., as to what is being purchased in a particular zip code. So the algorithm that we built was like having 160 million rows of data, which would run for about 13 to 14 hours every day. It was a deep learning algorithm which was having at least 7 layers, well architected and ran on AWS to save time, like money, etc. The outcome of this was very precisely, if I were a salesperson, it will tell me on the mobile app, today you need to go to these stores and sell only this assortment. Now sometimes the kind of storekeeper will say, boss, I cannot afford to buy this coffee, and coffee never sells in my store. But we will say the algorithm says that coffee will sell in your store, and you stock coffee, and next month he will say, sir, give me more coffee. That is the result that we had.
And this is predictive analysis kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, but using deep learning.
Deep learning.
Deep learning. Now, the turning point in my life was, I used to always think then from either a customer's point of view or from Mindtree's point of view. I presented this case study to the board, Mindtree board, as to how great we are with this technology and blah, blah, blah. So, one of the board members came, I think I can take his name, Mr. Subroto Bagchi, was a former chairman of Mindtree, as well as the board member then, also a founder. He came rushing to the podium and said, you know what you have done? I was taken aback for a moment.
Oh.
Okay, that I have done something wrong. He said, look how AI can impact the life of a Kirana store owner, a simple Kirana store owner. And the picture I had, the backdrop was someone with a turban, and he had all these sacks of grains, etc. And then the sachets of shampoo, other things were just hanging around, right? And this brand was visible somewhere. Whatever brand I was talking about was visible somewhere in the picture. Now he said, look, he can store ice cream. He can buy a fridge and store ice cream, which this company sells. He can store coffee, which he will never afford to say, because 500 grams coffee will cost you like, I don't know, 1,000 rupees, 1,500 rupees then. So his life is going to change. He is going to make more sales and more profit and expand his stores. That's what AI can do to society. So that was the kind of eye-opener I had at that time, as to think around these 3 dimensions.
And that was a time when people were not talking about AI.
People are not talking about AI in the current sense, right? They're talking about machine learning, deep learning. It was more in the academic circles. We used to do a lot of work. And so deep learning was catching up. So deep learning, we had another project where for a large paint company, nowadays, see, these things may look very silly now. At that time, it was all path-breaking.
And it was all about like how much research has gone.
Exactly, yeah. For example, you just point a camera to the wall, and then it'll recommend based on your carpet, based on your curtains, it'll recommend what color you have to use. Okay, and then you choose the color, it'll paint the room in that color. Okay, but the challenge was, how do you paint that behind this light, behind this a plant? You should not kind of smudge over that. So those were the challenges. So we engineered that and we rolled it in 4 months. Okay, for across 44 countries for this paint company which I'm talking about, European-based paint company. So this is again deep learning. We used computer vision libraries for this. So these are the kind of projects we used to do, and digital became the powerhouse of Mindtree then. That was, again, I would say, a career-changing, career-defining moment for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting projects and interesting things which I have understood today, because these words I have also never heard. So many things. But you moved from US to India. Usually people don't come back. Usually people are like that, once we have gone, let's settle over here, because that's the mindset which I have seen among the people, or like people who after a moment of time they want to stay over in different, be it Europe, US, whatever. What made you shift, and what was your take on it?
See, I would say I'm not the first one to move back to India. Okay, so there are a lot of people before me who have come here after spending decades in the US. And see, US was a defining moment for me, right? I learned a lot, and that's like my karma bhumi, I would say. This is my janma bhumi, that's my karma bhumi. There's a lot of things I have learned, and I admire US for the opportunities it presents, and I would go back at some point in time. I had to come back because I need to take care of my mother-in-law, and my family ties were perhaps more important at this point in time. So I thought, let me just come back and spend some time here. And I choose Bangalore because my brother and family were all here, right? So that's the reason why I came back here. But US has taught me a lot of things, and I owe it to that country for whatever I am at this point, Yeah, so that's the reason why I came back, and sometime I would go back again. Yeah.
Okay. You are like, when did you shifted over there and when you came back? What was
So
the
I lived there for 2 decades, 22 years to be precise. I went in 2002, lived in Columbus, Ohio. From there I shifted to Jacksonville, Florida, and from Jacksonville I came to Orlando. And from Orlando I just came here in 2025 of January.
Okay, so your stint in TCS and entire
Mindtree was in the US. Was in the US, yeah.
Not
so
in India,
yeah.
specifically.
So just across these 3 cities, and so Orlando is a fantastic place to live. Very tropical in terms of weather, so I had a lot of good friends.
Bangalore is also good weather.
Bangalore is a fantastic weather, yeah. So I have absolutely, see what I learned after coming back here was that there are almost 1 million US citizens living in India. 1 million.
Million?
Yes. US citizens living in India is what I learned. Okay. I may be wrong with the numbers here and there, but that's the kind of number of people that are here who have come back to India and who have still ties with the US. They may want to go back.
After a certain moment of time, they're staying in US, they become a US citizen.
US citizens, yeah. So then they come back here.
You also might be one.
I'm also one of them, a proud US citizen of Indian origin. So I call myself as an Indian American. Okay. Is what I am, right? So I'm here. My family is also of the same this thing. But then there are a lot of good things about India as well. So what I'm doing right now is spending time in visiting as many places as I can, which I had not. Now, one important thing which I did this season was to eat mangoes. Last 22 years, I was never getting the kind of mangoes that you get here. We get mangoes there. We get mangoes that are imported.
The quality is.
But the quality of mangoes that we get here, the kind of mangoes at the price point that you get here was just amazing. So I would have tried almost all the varieties of mango here. Some even I got them shipped from Ratnagiri, the Alfonso mangoes, from my friends who own farms.
To US also?
To Bangalore, not to US, to Bangalore, yeah, after coming here. So this season I would have eaten probably 2 mangoes every day. So my sugars would have shot up, I think.
But that's a good sugar. Mango is a good sugar.
I hope so.
Mango is a good sugar, which I read somewhere, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Interesting. So, but when you shifted to US, you started entering into the leadership roles because you started working as an engineer, and then you started, and you ultimately become a leader in LTI Mindtree, which is now LTM. So, what is your leadership skills? Which I talk about, which makes you stand out, because what happens, some of the people say that कि मुझे उसके साथ काम नहीं करना है. This is where we heard. Then some people expand their team a lot, they increase their team a lot. What was your style in terms of growing your team plus the company as a leader?
See, what I feel and what I have learned in my career is that your style, your leadership, everything is modeled around your boss. Okay, and how your boss behaves is how you will behave. I was very fortunate to get some fantastic bosses all throughout. Okay, and my kind of behavior is modeled around their behavior, their style, etc. Be it in TCS, be it in Mindtree, be it in LTA Mindtree, etc., etc. I will always see leadership is a behavior. Okay, how you behave and how you keep your goals, and how you're focused on having your customer first, then employee, then the company, and then only yourself. That's how you have that hierarchy of purpose defined, right? So this was ingrained in me as to always have customer first, then go with your employees. Finally is when you come in the picture. So one aspect which I learned very consciously, which I followed, was to have empathy. I believe that everybody has been hired into the company because they have certain skills, certain traits that they bring to the table. That's why we are hiring them at the first place. And you can do only so much in a couple of hours of interview, couple of rounds of interview. You can't judge the person's entire facet of expertise, etc. in the 2 hours of interview, but you still take the person. But then I believe that you had to give the right environment for that individual to flourish so that they can realize their potential. So that's how I have been operating all throughout. that's how my bosses have been operating with me. So which has ensured that your leadership style might sound as highly empathetic in nature, but you will ensure that people will work for you at any point in time. So that's how I have. So one statistics which I can share with you is that my next level attrition in all these 35 years has been 0.
For me, I think 1, 2 or 2.
Great.
But not 35 years.
Yeah.
It is it's 1/5 as of now. For me, 7 years.
Yeah.
But one thing, like for example, for me, like I gel up with all my team members. If I joke with them, they can also joke with me.
Yeah.
What is one thing you used to do with all of your team members to keep them very intact, keep them very open, friendly, beside the work actually?
See, we connect at a very personal level. With every team member, I go beyond my next level. So as I said earlier, one of my stints with Mindtree, I had almost like 7,000 member team. In the data and AI practice that I was running for LTM, it was almost 10,000 people team. So what I do is, I used to follow, when I was in the US, I used to follow the principle of never eat alone. Okay, so I'll have lunch with always some random set of employees. I'll go to the cafeteria, sit with them at the table. I'll bring my food, sit with them at the table, try to know them as to who they are, what they do.
Because knowing 10,000 people
difficult.
at a single move
is
very difficult.
Yeah.
But 5, 10 at a time.
Every day I'll go and sit at somebody's table and try to know them.
And I believe from this, what would have happened is like this 10 people would have gone and tell to more other 10.
Exactly, yeah. If you look at my LinkedIn post that I had and see the kind of comments, I feel really overwhelmed.
Correct, I also commented on
Yeah,
this.
thank you. Yeah, so that's one thing which I used to follow, like connect as much as possible with people personally. And see, everybody in this world has some problem or the other. But when you can try to talk to them, at least listen to their problems and be a good listener, I think you build a relationship.
Correct.
And I strongly believe in relationships, strongly believe in network. And network is my strength, is what I used to always think about.
Interesting. But now obviously network is your strength. You have kept people around all the time, like you've been around with them. You started investing also in founders, like because you saw that you became a leader out of an engineer and all those things. But you also started investing into future leaders. So what made you start your investment journey? That is first. And second thing is, like, what do you see in a founder? Like what type of founders you like the most? Like for me, a different rate of founder is favorite of mine. Everyone has a choices. Like I like this kind of founders, this type of people.
See, there are a few things there. Okay, so I started my investment journey perhaps I would say 8 or 9 years ago. Primarily through VCs is when I started. But now I have evolved a bit, learned a lot in the process, understand how VCs work, how startups work. And one thing which I learned throughout this is that founder profile is very, very important. Okay, founder background, founder trait, extremely important, right? And what are the values that the founder beholds? That is very important. Now, I kind of developed my own investment thesis, if you will, as to where I want to put my money. I said from now on, I will not be a passive investor. So I want to leverage whatever experience I have had, be it the network I have built, be it the client network that I have built, or be it the technology expertise that I have built. I want to lend that to young leaders, young founders who are coming up. So that's one aspect of it. And I want the founders who are willing to listen and who are a little bit adaptable. And not be someone who is my way or highway. I know this is my product, I know how this works. There are some founders who are like that, and there are many founders who are quite willing to learn, to adapt, and at some point in time you may have to be prepared to do a pivot if required, right? I haven't gone to that extent so far, but many founders have done several pivots as part of their journey to kind of scale up their product or whatever, right? But my fundamental expectation of founders should be that they be a good listener, be adaptable, and be open to ideas. So that's what I would look for.
Interesting. Obviously now you have some more time to your schedule. I would not say entirely a lot of time, But what will be next thing for you which you're going to do? Like, for example, you told one that you want to be an active investor and obviously work with the founder more closely. And you also told your type of founders. But anything else which you want to do next or explore in this particular period when you are working around this?
There are two things which come to my mind. So one is I see a lot of activities happening in the healthcare industry here. Like what happened with, say, UPI in the entire financial ecosystem, where it brought in more people into the financial network, enhanced financial inclusivity tremendously in India, right? Similar to that, there's a huge scope for healthcare to be taken to rural India, for example. Even though we have primary healthcare centers, there are a lot of ailments, like for example, seizures, stroke, etc., where they do not have this specialty available in the rural areas. So can we do something with technology which can kind of democratize delivery of this healthcare into those unexplored areas? So that's one thing which I am trying to help, trying to work with a few neurologists in my network to see if that is something which we can do. And then there are ailments like stroke, for example. If you are able to administer a particular medicine within the first 4 hours, you can prevent any kind of deficits in your faculties, I mean your mental and physical faculties. So can we do something where you can administer that, where kind of people become aware that they're going to get a stroke or they're experiencing a stroke, they know where to go to, and there is some kind of facility available where they can get that medicine within that 4 hours to prevent any kind of paralysis of their limbs, etc. So I see many such use cases, and there are a lot of startups working in this space. Okay, so either I work with an existing startup, bring in that expertise that I have, or start something on my own in that space as well. Is what.
If in case you start, please do let me know.
Of course.
But you also made some operating system for your brother's hospital also. Yeah. I was just saying, I was just talking to you. I just recalled it now. And that you built in like I think in 30, 60 days.
60 days time, yeah. So that is again the power of AI, right? So I can speak a little bit about that. What intrigued me about that was, of course, it is not pure play vibe coding as we all have read about it, right?
Two things from this, like obviously what is used for. Second, how you reduced your time in building this with using latest technology.
So, like you always mentioned, right, the fundamental input to this is domain. So if you're a hardcore technologist and you know nothing about neurology, you cannot build this. Okay. Or if you're a neurologist and you know nothing about software development life cycle, you cannot build this. So you had to bring these two together. So I brought in the technology aspects, the SDLC discipline, the software engineering discipline, the architecture concepts. So I was an architect myself in my career. So brought in that expertise, and my brother brought in the neurology expertise. So we both were the just two in a box kind of a thing. And then in terms of technology, right, I mean, I can code myself, but I didn't want to code it. So I used all the latest AI tools available. First I did use Perplexity to do a research of what is out there. So what do neurologists use? What are their challenges? What are their primary pain points that they have today? Especially clinical neurologists who are working in their own clinics, etc. Then I used ChatGPT to define what exactly should be the BRD, business requirements document for this. Okay, so it built an elaborate set of features that are required. Okay, and some of them are very kind of mundane features that you would need to run a clinic, like booking appointments, doing the clinical operations, prescription printing, and all those things. Those things were kind of hygiene factors that you would need. But the core was the patient intelligence. You had to build an intelligent system which would make it very easy for a doctor or a neurologist to quickly scan on what is going on and then kind of think in his mind as to what exactly could be the possible diagnosis. And I didn't want to use AI to make recommendation of a diagnosis at this point in time, because I didn't want it to hallucinate and run into any issues. So we just present the information in such a way that it's quite readable. And then the doctor can make the right decisions as to what it is. And as patients come over, some of these disorders are like chronic disorders. They got to visit. So the longitudinal history builds up. So over the last 4 years, you have been taking these medicines. has your seizures come down, have you improved on your symptoms, those view you will create. So that becomes the intelligence, which is not there in any of the existing healthcare platforms today. So that is what I'm trying to build here. So I used, I said Perplexity, I used ChatGPT, I used Claude, of course. But Claude I use for a lot of things, including the design, architecture and everything. Plus I use Replit. So Replit uses the Claude behind the scenes, the anthropic models behind the scenes, but gives you a very good IDE to build this. But then one important factor here was to be compliant with DPDP, which is Data Prevention Data Protection Act of India. And then there is something coming up called DISHA, which is equivalent to HIPAA in the US. We'll have a new regulations coming up. So you got to make this compliant so that data is not leaving the country. It has to be. So I deployed everything on AWS. So all these things, you won't believe, Rishav, I did that in last 2 months, including deploying on AWS. And I'm not an AWS engineer. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I use Claude to tell me how exactly I should go about deploying on AWS.
And that is how it easy has been made these
Exactly,
days.
yeah. And now the most interesting part was to see if a patient is booking his appointment, you got to send him an SMS. The SMS setup procedure was very interesting for me. Okay. Yeah, so because Airtel was involved, Department of Communications involved, there's a lot of regulations behind the scenes. You had to use a telemarketing platform. Correct. So that was a very interesting, because I have not done that before. So what I learned is that even if you haven't done that, using the AI tools, the right AI tools, you can dabble into anything. But as long as you have the discipline, so now the application that I have built is really big, really vast. So you got to make sure that you don't screw up anything, by giving a wrong prompt.
Entirely you built alone, using AI.
Using AI, and my brother has the
obviously is along with you giving the knowledge of the neurology.
Yeah.
Interesting. What is other thing which you like doing? Like for example, apart from work, anything. Like I like playing cricket. I like watching movies. What do you like most?
You hit the right nail on the head right now. So cricket is something I am really obsessed. Not even passionate may be an understatement. Okay. I am obsessed with cricket. So there is no cricket match that I don't watch, especially when India is playing, or be it India A team or Indian women's team or Indian under 19
team. You watch all that.
I would watch everything. And the advantage I had being in the US was I could watch all these things during US night time.
Correct.
Yeah, now I don't know how it will be here. The last test I watched was the India-Afghanistan test last week, this week rather.
It happened, ended in 2.5 days.
2.5 days, yeah. So that's the norm these days for any test. But then if India is not playing, then I look at who else is playing.
Next month India is going to England. That will be interesting.
That will be quite interesting. Now we have the Women's World Cup now.
Correct.
This week. So I'm looking forward to that. So that is something which really keeps me, I would say, active in a day. So every day morning I look up
which matches are there.
Which matches are there, and how should I spend my time?
And now the state level Premier Leagues have also started. Mumbai Premier League is happening.
I haven't gotten into that now.
West Bengal Premier League is also happening.
Is it okay?
All together actually.
Yeah.
So that is interesting, and obviously now there are too many matches are there. Be it leagues, be it women, under 19, India A, India B, a lot of things have came into the picture.
I used to see this. IPL is really mind-blowing.
Due to that, lot have evolved a lot.
Yeah, really mind-blowing, and so many new players have come in. I used to be a huge fan of Sanju Samson when he was at RR, Rajasthan Royals.
But now I'm not a fan anymore.
Anyway, so Sanju is from my native. I'm from Trivandrum, so he is from Trivandrum too. So, and I was told that he also played at the same ground where I used to play in my childhood. So that bonding is also there. But then there are so many such players. Sachin has always been my, I would say, mascot or role model, if you want to call it that way. All the big players, Dravid, Sachin, and now it's Suryavamshi. It's just like cricket, we can talk forever. Okay, so you don't want to go there.
Last one thing which you would say to any young professional as of now who is either doing engineering, second, third, fourth year of their college, or a young graduate who just passed or in a career of 2 to 3 years. Like patience, obviously people have lost tremendously over these years, which I have personally seen in 5 years gap only I see. For you, what do you want to suggest to those kind of people who are going into the
This
career?
is a very important question that you asked, Rishav. Thanks for asking that. And this is something which I am very passionate about, and I keep telling this in all my speeches. I would say youngsters, even not those who are right in college, but even those who are having 5, 6 years of experience, even 10 years of experience, they should kind of categorize their skills across 3 vectors. First is obviously, if they're in the IT industry, for example, they should focus on the technical skills. And now it is AI, they got to have a repertoire of AI skills in their sleeve, up their sleeve. So look at the basic AI tools they should know. That's something which they should have. But that alone is not enough. There are 2 other vectors which are very, very important. They should have expertise in at least one domain. It could be retail, CPG, banking. Within banking, there are so many subdomains, be it cards, corporate banking, retail banking. So one domain where they should know in and out. It could also be, when I say domain, it could also be functional domain, like for example, supply chain, finance, HR, something of that sort within the domain should be there. And third, very importantly, and you have been doing this for so many years, everyone should have a fundamental idea of business. Fundamental idea of business. How do businesses make money?
And how they work actually.
How they work. They should know that. Very important. I've seen many youngsters who lack that business acumen. So even in my previous companies, when we work for a client, I used to always tell them, you are a great technologist, but understand how is this client making money?
Correct.
What are their pain points? Because the business is funding the CIO. CIO is there, he's meeting the system day in and day out so that the business can run. So you need to know what is it that you can do with technology to run the business or transform the business. Then understand the domain aspect of it, right? So these 3 things are very, very important, and these are not rocket science that somebody cannot pick it up. You can learn the fundamentals of business, don't need to do an MBA altogether, you can always learn from any other sources that you have online today. But I would also say one last thing is that learning should never stop. You should always learn, no matter how old you are, learning should never stop. So that's how I would characterize this, Rishav.
With this, thank you so much. It was great talking to you, and obviously I have known you in the short span, but I known you a lot actually, like in terms of how you see the things, how you be around with people, and how you want to connect with the people. That is very much important these days. Thank you so much for being in this podcast.
Thank you, Rishav. Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you.
fantastic seeing you. Yes, thank you.